Nation, Jason here. So excited to be with you all this evening. So thankful that you're taking time out of your busy Thursday night to find new ways, to find different ways to better yourself as a pilot. Tonight, we're going to be talking about this idea of pilot-induced emergencies. We're going to be talking about, I want you to truly understand when we walk away from this, that engines don't just quit, airplanes don't just fall out of the sky. You know, most of our accidents end up being induced, unfortunately, by us, the pilot. A little bit about how this works. First off, we are streaming live simultaneously on YouTube and on Facebook, and I can see those comments. When you see me look down, I'm checking out the comments. So let's head over to Facebook. Let's give some shout outs. Hey, George, John, Daniel, Jim. Hey, Dustin Searles, nice to see you. Scott, great to see you on there as well. Nathaniel Warren, fantastic to see you as well. Hey, Tyler. Hey, Aaron. Hey, Natalie and Chris, great to see you all over on YouTube now. Username LE1 Aviator. Frank, Dan, Susan, Greg, great to see you all. Kevin, nice to see you all. Oscar, great to see you. Hey, Sarah. Hey, Gabriel, Luis. Dominic, fantastic. Great to see you all as well. So excited to see you all. And again, thank you so much for taking time to better yourself. Tonight, I'll be discussing my United Flight 173 accident analysis. And I'm going to be taking you through that entire process kind of step by step and showing you the chain of events of that accident leading all the way up to it and talk about what we can learn about it as it pertains to general aviation. And then at the end, we're going to give away some great M0A.com gear. We're going to give away some online ground school memberships. I have a stack of shirts over here that I'll be giving away. And at the end, we're going to give away one lucky person here is going to get a Bose A20 headset. That'll be at the very end after the seminar is all through. So very excited about that, very excited to share all of that with you. A few little things. Most of you know M0A.com for our great videos we put out there on YouTube, but M0A.com truly is so much more. We're a full online ground school for private, instrument, commercial, and CFI, not just helping you prep for your FAA knowledge test, your written tests, prep for your check ride, but most importantly, making you that safe, real-world pilot. And that's what we're working on doing here this evening as well. Because of amazing clients, customers, and the M0A Nation out there, M0A.com was named to the Inc. 500 list, 500 list last year, 5,000 list this year, of fastest growing private companies. Number 230, the 230th fastest growing private company in 2017, and then the number 578 this year. So very blessed, very thrilled to be able to share all of that with you all because of amazing, amazing members of that M0A Nation. So thank you for that. Another thing, I was live on Instagram earlier. This is the new Instagram name tag. We can put that up there for a second. If you're on Instagram, please make sure you're following myself as username M0A. If you ever want to see behind the scenes of the studio, what we're flying that day, what we're up to that day, chances are I'm on Instagram each and every day as we're flying or doing something cool in the studio. If you want to follow us more and see behind the scenes, so I'll leave that up there for a second. Literally, all you need to do is scan that with the Instagram app open, take a quick picture of it, or simply just search the spelled out version M-Z-E-R-O-A right there. You can check all of that out as well. So we have that. Look forward to seeing you all on Instagram as well. Anyways, let's go ahead and let's dive into the presentation. Let's talk a little bit more about what we're going to learn today. I'm going to show you a recreation of United Flight 173. And I'm going to show you truly the chain of events that lead up to that accident here. I want you to walk away from this knowing that pilot error is the main cause of aviation accidents. Airplanes don't just magically fall out of the sky. Engines don't just happen to quit. Everything can be tracked and traced to a chain of events that ultimately works and leads itself up to, and that's what we're going to discuss here this evening. I want to ask you a question. I pulled up some of the general aviation statistics here. This accident we're talking about happened literally 40 years ago now. It happened in 1978. In a DC-8. In 1978, Now, you could easily argue that technology is continuing to get better and better. How are we continuing to add G1000 technology, iPad technology? We just added the most amazing Aviation avionics suite to our airplane, yet the accident rate continues to stay about the same. Look at the stats with me here. We took a little bit of a dip in 2008, a little bit of dip in 2012 because of the fuel crisis, and we're kind of on our way back up. How do we continue to add all this amazing technology, yet the accident rate still works and kind of stays the same here? What is the problem? So I kind of started to do some digging. I want to look a little bit further. I said, who is causing all of these accidents? I thought to myself, you know what? I bet it's those student pilots. I bet it's student pilots on their first solo. They're the ones out there causing all those accidents. And what you'll learn is that's not even close to the case. And we're going to repeat that truth with our accident analysis of United Flight 173. Let's look at those accident statistics a little bit closer here. Here is the accidents for 2016, non-commercial, as you can see, fit through, based on the level of certificate they have. Student pilots, well, guess what? They made up 7% of all accidents here. They only made up 1% of fatalities in 2016. But step up to private pilot, at least a private pilot. Look at this one, this big one down here at the bottom, IFR pilot on board. 50% of all accidents had an IFR pilot on board. What does that tell us? Are we getting, I was always taught that the more certificates I add, the more ratings I add, the safer and safer I get. However, what we're finding is that oftentimes this IFR pilot on board might be flying in conditions he or she shouldn't be. One more statistic to kind of show you here that I think is fascinating, then we'll cut to the seminar here. Look at this third to last one here. Second pilot on board, 13% over the accidents with a second pilot on board. What I'm trying to explain is we are exponentially almost safer when we have another set of eyes on board. When we have another pilot on board, we are truly that much safer. IFR pilot on board, 51% of our accidents had that. Second pilot on board, just 13%. Fascinating here. And we're going to see United Flight 173 falls into a few of these categories. You see, United Flight 173 is where this idea of CRM, crew resource management, really came from. In 1978, we still had a very, can I call it a negative cockpit culture? Meaning it was that culture of, I'm the captain and what I say goes. If you're familiar, you've studied aviation accidents, you know the Tenerife accident. You know how much the macho hazardous attitude played into the Tenerife accident, right? I'm the captain, it's fine, I've got this. First officer, flight engineers, their opinions didn't really matter at all much, did they? United Flight 173 is another example of that, and this is the accident where the FAA finally said we need to adopt from the military this idea of CRM, crew resource management, because the FAA finally realized that more aviation accidents were being caused by pilot error rather than by mechanical error. Prior to 1978, it used to be, oh, this part broke, we learned this, and this fixed this, and we kind of entered into this A&P, this mechanical renaissance period, where the amount of accidents caused by maintenance errors was dropping, and the amount of accidents caused by pilots was on the rise. And United Flight 173 was right at the cusp of this. So when the FAA showed up, and I'm going to start at the end of this accident and work our way into it here. When the FAA showed up to this accident site, when the NTSB showed up, they asked one simple question. How does an airplane run out of fuel in VFR conditions inside of the airport? And I asked the question to you all, Facebook, YouTube. I'm asking you the same question. Summarize it for me. How does an airplane run out of fuel in VFR conditions in sight of the airport? I'm going to go over to YouTube first and see what you all have to say here. Todd said distracted pilot. Absolutely. Username Heels to the Floor said poor planning. Absolutely here. Joey, again, poor planning. Ron said human factors. Mark said get home-itis. Absolutely here. A lot of poor planning, fixation, negligence, distracted. Complacency, said Corbin. Corbin, nice to see you. Great, great, great. Laziness. Yeah, it could be, absolutely. Not talking to ATC, said Lacey. We need to keep them abreast as to what's happening here. Someone said it could be broken gauges. It could have been. It could have been a lot of these things, right? Let's look over on Facebook, see what Facebook has to say about some of this. Why? Not paying attention, says William. Hey, Neil, nice to see you. In a rush to get home, right? That get home-itis. Neil, thank you for watching this. Neil's in Ireland, very, very late there in Ireland. Appreciate that. Poor pre-flight, says Jerome. Philip, poor planning. Zeke said the snowball effect. We're going to talk about that and refer to it as the chain of events of the accident. But this is literally the NTSB reporters' question to themselves. How does an airplane run out of fuel in VFR conditions inside of the airport? Starting at the end, let's now go back to the beginning and see what we can learn about our accident. Let's start with our crew. I want to put you in the shoes of our crew that December 28th, 1978 day. Our captain. Our captain's name is Malvern McBroom. Check out this resume. World War II veteran. 27-year United captain. 27,000 flight hours. That is the kind of resume that I want to have from somebody, right? That's the kind of resume I want to see when I march into a flight school. That's what I'm really after there. Yet this is the exact person that the entire accident surrounds. A World War II veteran, 27-year United captain, 27,000 flight hours here. Our first officer, 13 years with United, 5,500 flight hours. Our flight engineer, 11 years with United, 3,300 flight hours. There are a combined 35,000 flight hours sitting in that cockpit. And we know what's going to happen. We're going to run out of fuel in VFR conditions in sight of the airport. How do we allow these sort of things to really happen here? Let's talk about our route of flight. Our route is a routine one, especially for this crew who would work together. Leaving New York's JFK Airport with a stopover in Denver before continuing on to Portland, Oregon, where the accident actually happens. But where the chain of events of our accident truly starts is in the Denver airport. You see, when they land at Denver, some passengers get on, some passengers get off, and they take on just a little bit more fuel. However, for this flight from Denver to Portland, they're required to have 32,000 pounds of fuel. They end up taking on 46,000 pounds of fuel. Now, let me put this in perspective. We fly 172s and small aircraft. It's hard to say thousands of pounds of fuel. Help me understand that a little bit better. So I talked to a former DC-8 captain. He said, Jason, if the bare minimum was, if I flight plan, I needed 32,000 pounds, and I only take 46,000 pounds. That's like saying I have just enough fuel to get to where I'm going plus 45 minutes, which is what? It's our basic reserves, right? Nobody wants to have just enough fuel and then just a little bit extra to get there. I always jokingly say the only time you have too much fuel is when you're on fire. Now, I know it doesn't always pertain. There's weight issues and some other things that go into that. But as a rule of thumb, I'm always fueling up. When we flew to Gulf Shores, Alabama, I didn't have to stop in Tallahassee. I chose to stop in Tallahassee. It was only an hour flight up there. I wanted an extra hour's worth of fuel. Give me the 6 gallons, right? I want it. So if I get to Gulf Shores and the weather's bad, there's a fly-in, there's a lot going on, I can then go ahead and I have options with this. I never want to be in that situation. So they take on just enough fuel. That's where our chain of events starts. We then head to Portland. And at Portland, we break through this kind of wispy layer right here. We're 20 miles out Approach passes us on to tower, and 20 miles out, tower clears us to land. You always know it's a quiet day at the airport when you're 20 miles out and tower clears you to land. It's in the middle of the night. They clear them to land. They go ahead and they start their before landing checks. They go and they drop the landing gear. And when they drop the landing gear, they're met with a loud bang noise. And no one likes loud noises when we're in an airplane, right? It was the kind of noise where you look at your co-pilot and go, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Well, not only did they hear it, but the entire cabin heard this loud bang. And what had actually happened is they had lost hydraulic pressure. You see, hydraulic pressure works to bring the landing gear up nicely, and it, along with gravity, works to bring it down nicely. But when you lose that hydraulic pressure, the landing gear came down just with airspeed and gravity and literally slammed and locked itself into place so abruptly. Think back, for those of you flying like an Aero or a smaller complex aircraft, the J-locks. Imagine the J-locks just gave out. That gear would come slamming down into place with airspeed and with gravity. So much so that it literally broke the sensors that would give them their 3 green lights they were looking for. Their gear with all 3 wheels were down, locked, and straight. However, through troubleshooting, the captain had a failure to see beyond it. He even went as far as to send the flight engineer to the back, and on the DC-8 at the time, right on each wing root, there's a little actuator tab that pops up when that respective wheel, if I'm looking at the right wing, is down, locked, and straight. This little actuator tab pops up. So picture this now. You're in the cabin. You just heard this loud bang noise, and all of a sudden the flight engineer comes out of the cockpit with a flashlight, is walking through all the aisles, gets down to about the emergency exit row, says, "Excuse me, ma'am, excuse me, sir," looks out the window and says with the flashlight, "Yes, I can see that actuator tab is up," meaning that wheel is down, locked, and straight. Over to the other side of the cabin, looks outside, "Yes, that actuator tab, that wheel is down, locked, and straight." On the DC-8 at this time, there's no easy way to check the nose without removing panels and everything else. So this gear is down here. However, back to our chain of events, the captain has a failure to see beyond it here. And the crew has a failure to share a message, as we'll see in the simulation in a second, which is fuel. They're very passive-aggressive when it comes to mentioning the dire fuel situation that's truly at stake, which ultimately ends up leading to our accident. Let's go ahead now and let's cue up that simulation, and I'm going to narrate your way on through it here. Sorry, jumping ahead. You want to play it off yours? There we go. We're leaving New York's JFK Airport with a quick stopover in Denver before continuing on to Portland, Oregon. Now, in Denver, we stop and we take on fuel. We needed 32,000 pounds. We take on 46,000 pounds, which again is just enough fuel to get by here. Just enough fuel to get by. But here we come to this little wispy layer here. We finally see Portland. Everything is looking good. We're ready. We're cleared to land. We go through our before landing checks, and we go ahead and we lower that landing gear as we're going through that process. At this point, we hear this loud bang. You and I can see the gear is down, locked, and straight on the mains. We take a peek at the nose. We can see the nose is down, locked, and straight as well. However, when sitting inside the cockpit after hearing this loud bang, they can't see outside just yet. So they rely solely on their landing gear position indicators. They look at that landing gear position indicators, and we get 3 red lights is all we really get there. So we're looking, and they do the right thing in this case. They decide to go ahead and troubleshoot the situation here. They call up ATC and they ask for just a basic local hold. And they kind of just say, "Listen, that's fine. Just hold out that direction. Let me know when you're ready to come back in." Didn't give me any formal hold, just kind of do your own thing. So you can see the light at the top is the Portland Airport. They enter into this kind of triangular shaped hold as they begin to troubleshoot the issue. Again, this is the right thing to do at this point here. They're holding, they're troubleshooting, they're running checklists. It's about this point, we send the flight engineer to the back now. Picture the flight engineers walking down all these rows, all the way on out, peeking out that window, looking at the wing root to tell that wheel is down, locked, and straight. The captain is preparing the cabin now to brace really as to what to expect. So the captain picks up the phone, and the captain is now reaching out to his flight attendant to let her know what the situation is. Okay, what would you do, says the captain. Have you got any suggestions about when to brace? Do you want to do it on the PA? The flight attendant comes back and says, I'll be honest with you, I've never had one of these before. This is my first, her first emergency, as United Flight 173 has now completed one lap in that triangular shaped holding pattern. The flight engineer said, I believe the gear is down, and this is the first time now we hear about fuel. I'm sure the first officer is just thinking out loud, hey, how much fuel do we have? The flight engineer comes back and says, 5,000. 5,000 is like warning lights on at this point, right? Super, super low. Captain, give us another current car and weight figure, about another 15 minutes. I'll explain this in a second here. 15 minutes, says the flight engineer. The captain comes back, wait here just 1 second. Yeah, give us 3,000 or 4,000 pounds on top of zero fuel weight. We'll read one more thing and then I'll pause it here. Not enough. 15 minutes is gonna run us really low on fuel here. Allow me to explain this. The captain is making up imaginary fuel at this point. The flight engineer on the DC-8 was always nicknamed the plumber. It had so many tanks on the DC-8. It was such a weight-sensitive aircraft that the flight engineer is literally plumbing fuel from tank to tank, from chamber to chamber, 15 minutes here, then 15 minutes here. No one on that airplane had a better image of what the fuel situation was than the flight engineer. So when the flight engineer says, I have 5,000 pounds, 5,000 pounds of fuel is warning lights on. That's like when you're driving your car and it no longer says 30 miles till empty. It just says low. It doesn't give you a number anymore. It is that low. It is that dire of a situation. Then the captain comes back on though. He said, give us a current car and weight figure, about another, 3,000 or 4,000 pounds, a little bit longer here, 10, 15 minutes. He's trying to say, flight engineer, listen, I know what you think is in there, but I'm the captain. Trust me, there's another 10 or 15 minutes on top of what you already think. And the flight engineer comes back and goes, no, 15 minutes is going to run us really low on fuel here. We don't have 15 minutes is what the flight engineer is saying, but the captain kind of ignores these requests. Watch how the captain becomes more and more distracted, just obsessed with this landing gear issue. Let's continue playing here. So flight engineer just said it's not enough. 15 minutes is going to run us really low on fuel here. And that stops the conversation of fuel for a bit as we continue this lap. But there's Portland. You would think 15 minutes of fuel, we have to land now. Well, it's not the case. Here's what the captain has to say now. The captain comes back on to speak to the crew when they all think they're going to land, but they don't get so lucky. Captain says, just take another walk through the cabin, make sure everyone's fine. Let them know another 10 minutes or so as United Flight 173 turns away from the airport. Flight engineer, we've got 3,000 pounds in the fuel, and that's it. He gets ignored. Captain, okay on touchdown. If the gear folds or something really jumps the track, get those boost pumps off so that you might even get the valves open. He's worried about a post-crash fire. He's not going to have enough fuel on board to even start a fire. But there's Portland one more time. You would think we have to land this time. There's one check that we missed, says the captain. What's that, the first officer? The landing gear warning horn. Let's test the circuit breaker. Try the throttles back at idle or the flaps past 35 to test. Hey, pull that breaker and reset it. He's obsessed with this landing gear. But now we'll get his attention. First officer, we're going to lose an engine. Why? We're losing an engine. Why? Fuel. Finally, we have the captain's attention here, right? Captain, open up the cross feeds. First flight engineer, I'm showing fumes. Captain, I'm showing 1,000 pounds or better. Flight engineer, I don't think it's in there. First officer, it just flamed out as we now make a turn, hopefully within partial powder glide distance to the Portland airport. The conversation continues. Flight engineer, we're going to lose engine number 3 in a minute 2. Captain, we've got 1,000 pounds, we have to. First officer, we had 5,000 pounds, buddy, but we lost it. Captain, do we have fuel pressure? All cross feeds open. Captain's last words on the black box. Hey, reset that circuit breaker real quick and see if we get gear lights. As United Flight 173 descends 8 miles short in VFR condition of the Portland airport into a Portland suburb. And I have some images of the crash here. Unfortunately, there were 10 fatalities on this, which is honestly, for landing in a Portland suburb, is a miracle for there to only be 10 fatalities. You can see this image here of the airplane. Here it is again, literally right through the trees. The middle of a Portland suburb is an accurate statement. Look at this one here. I don't know how well you can see this. My cursor is on the left-hand side of your screen. This is the tail section right here. Do you see this? The only post-crash fire was from their tail catching these power lines here. There was no post-crash fire from the aircraft because there's no fuel on board the aircraft. Zoom in here. You can see that tail section a little bit better. I'm talking, we have houses, we have a school over here, we have everything right here. Again, the only fire was from that electrical fire from grabbing those power lines. You are the FAA, you are the NTSB. You show up to this accident site and you ask one simple question here. How does an airplane run out of fuel in VFR conditions in sight of the airport? I asked that question earlier and all of you were spot on. Distractions in the cockpit. But one thing I really want to stress is it was a failure to fly the airplane. When things hit the fan, when emergencies arise, the most important thing we can do is fly the airplane. In our case, we're still hurtling through the sky at 90 knots, right, given the situation. We have to continue to fly the airplane. That's what's going to be most important. You see, this accident of United Flight 173 truly changed the way that airlines hired and the way airlines trained. Gone were the days of this macho, hazardous attitude of, I'm the captain, what I say goes. This is where we got CRM from. We adopted it from the military into the airlines, and then things like that always flow into general aviation, which asks the next question, how does this apply to us every single day in general aviation? How is it this accident happened in 1978? In 40 years, how much better has our technology gotten? Yet we still hear of people running out of fuel and landing on a road, landing short of the airport, because you can't take the pilot out of the equation. Look at a situation like Oshkosh, EAA AirVenture. Every single year without fail, somebody runs out of fuel on the way to Oshkosh. Because they're heading up there, they stretch a little bit further than they should. They thought they were going to go over the lake, but they got vectored around the lake. They thought they'd get in on the first try, but they made 3 or 4 laps around Green Lake and Rush Lake before they even were able to get in there. They tried to divert, but all the diversion airports were full, and they end up running out of gas. We flew in, we landed at Appleton, fueled up, and then went into Oshkosh knowing it was going to be that long of a flight. And even then, we stopped about an hour out. There's no need to push it. It's a funny saying, but it's so true that the only time you have too much fuel is when you're on fire. How does this apply to us in general aviation? I believe it applies 2 ways. It applies to us through CRM and through SRM. Let's start with CRM. CRM, Crew Resource Management. How well do you work as a crew in the cockpit? As an example here, I always teach that we have the flying pilot and the talking pilot. The flying pilot is the sole manipulator of those flight controls. The talking pilot is working the radios. To give an example, and I hope it's an extreme example, but forbid I were to have an engine failure on takeoff. If I define these roles on the ground of who's flying and who's talking, when that engine quits, I know instantly who's flying and who's about to make the most important landing in their flying career, and who's talking and who's communicating our emergency. There is no elbowing each other. You take it, no, you take it. You call, no, you call. You squawk, no, you squawk. All of that is already done. There is no need to discuss that, in the air when things hit the fan. We've already established that ahead of time on the ground. And that's what I want you to focus on. CRM. We learned at the very beginning, only 15% of all accidents in 2016 had 2 pilots on board, certificated pilots. However, 51% of all accidents had an IFR pilot on board. Think of that, right? Think of those numbers and how that really works. A second set of eyes, a certificated pilot, makes you almost exponentially safer in the cockpit. Then how does this apply to us in SRM, the single pilot resource management? How well you operate by yourself. You see, when you're operating single pilot, you're the flying pilot, you're the talking pilot, you're the pilot trying to spell that weird IFR fix, you're the pilot who ATC calls and says, 23 Mike Zulu, I have an update to your route, which is some of the words I can't stand hearing when I just spent all this time planning this beautiful flight plan in the Aviation or on ForeFlight, whatever it is. 23 Mike Zulu, I have an amendment to your route, and you have to now program, spell these fixes, and change your entire route while I'm still hurtling through the sky at 90 knots. Do you understand? The workload increases so much. So it would behoove you, it would benefit you in the single pilot environment to raise your personal minimums. I teach three ways my personal minimums. I will not go flying if the wind is greater than blank. I will not go flying if the visibility is less than blank. I will not go flying if the clouds are less than blank. And you fill in those blanks that work for you. One quick story about CRM, and then we'll go ahead, we'll get to the giveaway here, giving away again some great M0A.com shirts, ground school memberships, and of course the Bose A20 headset at the very end here. Quick story about CRM. I was flying with Matt. Matt really oversees all our operations at M0A. Chances are you've met Matt at a trade show, a fly-in, somewhere. He's been to all of them this year. I was flying back actually in 2016 with Matt in the Technam, the twin. And we had just purchased 245 Tango Alpha. And we were flying it back from Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, watch the chain of events of what could have been an accident building up here, okay? Brand new airplane, guy from Florida flying in Salt Lake City. Can you see two links in the chain already dealing with these mountains? Now, I called up my insurance company and I said, hey, I just bought this airplane. What do I need to do? Do I need 10 hours? Do I need to plan on staying out there a week? What do I have to do to get proficient in this airplane? Because I hadn't flown a Technam twin. I hadn't flown glass panel in a very long time. I hadn't done much multi-engine flying in a long time. I sent them my logbook. They said, Mr. Schappert, with your we there's no problem. All you need is a CFI to sign you off and say you're good. Well, great. CFI will sign me off and say I'm good. Fantastic. We flew Delta out there, got the airplane, did my flight with the CFI and flew around a little bit, signed a check, signed my logbook, and we were off. The only catch was the airplane was based at Salt Lake City International, the Class Bravo airport there. The two general aviation runways, since we were on the GA side, were closed. It was a 35-minute taxi all the way over to the main runway, and then we had to hold short. And you see the problem, the only problem I found with the Technam twin is the following, that when you close the doors here, since the propellers spin right here, I can't, like in the 172, I get natural air conditioning. I crank that prop up. You guys make fun of me for taxiing with the door open, but it's Florida, it's hot. I taxi with the door open until it's time to go. In the Technam, you close both doors. And your air vent is located right up here on the nose. So the only airflow I get is what I'm flying through. The props back here aren't giving any airflow. So this is Salt Lake City in August. Matt and I close both those doors, and all of a sudden becomes a greenhouse in this airplane. Here we are. We are in an unfamiliar airport, never taxied around general aviation, Salt Lake City International. New airplane, G1000. Haven't flown multi-engine in a while. Florida guy flying in the mountains. And by the way, I just want to get home. Can you see the chain of events of an accident building up? So here I am, I'm taxiing. I'm writing down my clearances a little fast. I'm taxiing a little faster than I should. I'm kind of all over the place. We are sweating like crazy. All I want to do is get flying so I can cool down. And I'm really going much faster than I should. And finally, Matt hops on the brake and says, Jason, stop. And he hits the brakes. And I think, what's wrong? Did they say something? Did I bust? Did I go past the hold short? What did I do wrong? He said, no, you didn't do anything wrong yet. This sounds like the start of an NTSB report. And think about those words. This sounds like the start of an NTSB report. What a true statement is that? Because how does every NTSB report start? If it was a private pilot who flew into IFR conditions, what would it say? The first sentence would say, the non-instrument rated private pilot inadvertently flew into IFR conditions, period. I don't need to read the rest of the NTSB report. I know exactly what's going to happen. So when Matt says, Jason, this sounds like the start of an NTSB report, I get it. New airplane, new area, just want to get home, new avionics, we're sweating like crazy, I just want to be home. Now look at it from Matt's perspective. It takes a lot of guts for somebody to speak up in an airplane. And think of Matt's situation. Guess who Matt's flight instructor is, right? Have you ever spoken up to your flight instructor? Guess who also signs Matt's paycheck every 2 weeks? Do you see where I'm getting at? It takes a lot of guts to say to somebody, hey, I am just as much along for this ride as you are, and I don't like the way this is going right now. I think we need to slow down or you need to let me out, basically. And we did that. We went to the run-up area, we slowed down, we double-checked everything, we preloaded frequencies, we were thinking ahead of the airplane rather than reacting to the airplane. We're just on the ground. It takes a lot of guts. And I share that story with you to encourage you, proper CRM, and encourage you to never hesitate to speak up as it pertains to aviation. I want you to exercise a sterile cockpit, but I want you to realize you have the freedom of speech. Work as a team still in the cockpit. You have to realize that like United Flight 173, distractions will arise. What's the most important thing? Fly the airplane. We have to continue to fly the airplane. And lastly, never hesitate to speak up. I don't care if they're your flight instructor and you think they know everything. You're still paying them, right? I don't care if it's a buddy who you went flying with, who owns the airplane, and you're flying in his Mooney, and you don't want to turn down a great opportunity to fly in the Mooney, and you're sitting there, and you're just right seat, and you look and the oil pressure's a little low, and you think, well, he's the aircraft owner, so he must know, he would notice. It's his airplane. Of course, he probably knows it forwards and backwards. I wouldn't hesitate to speak up and go, very nicely, you could say, hey, is this normal for your airplane? Is the gauge off? I mean, it's a 1970s airplane. Maybe the gauge is off a little bit, right? And ask them, and go, oh no, normally it's more up here. We should probably land here and take a look at that. Never hesitate to speak up when it comes to aviation here. You are just as much along for the ride as they are. One quick thing to share, then we'll do the giveaway, then I'll take some questions, let you get back to enjoying your Thursday night. I've partnered with a very, very good friend of mine. My ground school members know him. You all will see him next week in a video. His name is Gary Reeves, and he is truly a master at aviation safety. Gary and I are doing a 2-day event in Orlando, Florida, February 9th and 10th. February 9th and 10th, a 2-day aviation safety event from everyone just getting started, student pilots, all the way up to ATPs are welcome. We're going to be doing breakout sessions on ForeFlight, single pilot IFR, IFR and VFR mastery, and really taking you through this process. It's going to be about 20 hours worth of content that you're going to leave just feeling so confident going into your next hour. I'll tell you, I recently hired Gary for the team, actually, to come here to help us prep in 2-3 Mike Zulu. We say a good pilot is always learning. Well, we are doing the same as well. I just got my Aviation mastery certificate as well with that to help better ourselves in our flying. And myself, Matt, and Russ all went through Gary's training, and he is just such a wizard at what he does. Aviationmastery.org. There's a small fee. That fee will be going up January 1st. That's just to cover room expenses. There'll be lunch. There'll be just so many amazing breakout seminars and sessions. So many great aviation speakers, not just myself and Gary. We're working on some other very big names to be there as well. So we're pre-selling now, so buy those, check that out, or just leave that date on your calendar. We would love to have you come down to Florida for a great 2-day, truly intensive training. We're going to work on some agreements with Orlando Executive and the Kissimmee Airport as well for you to fly in with that. aviationmastery.org. I'm not a salesy person. That's the last time I will mention that. I am more of a giving person. So let's move forward now with our giveaway. Let me head over to my computer here. You all remember how this works here. I have the magical Excel spreadsheet. I apologize, that's a little bit blurry on your screen here. How it works is I simply just click on this. It is a random formula generator, and we're going to give some great stuff away, and then I'll let you get back to enjoying your Thursday evening. Let's start with some M0A.com t-shirts. We just launched a ton of new M0A.com t-shirts. Let's start with the new ones first, and then we'll give away the 2 old ones we've had. As a Florida pilot, I am big into like Under Armour and moisture wicking because we sweat like crazy when we fly. M0A.com, a good pilot is always learning Under Armour shirt. Giving that away too. Let's head over here. Let's head over to my magical Excel spreadsheet. I will hit the random button here to randomize that. The email is wsw.wilson@gmail.com. My friend, you have a beautiful M0A.com, a good pilot is always learning Under Armour shirt coming your way. For all my winners, please email Sarah at m0a.com, and she will go ahead and take your shipping info and your size info and get that shipped out to you. Obviously, I prefer you email her. That way we don't have to hunt you down. We had to hunt some people down last time. I'm happy to do it, but it's much easier if you email her as well. Next one, if you don't win, all these shirts, man, Jason, I really like that Under Armour shirt. They're available on the M0A.com shop. Just go to M0A.com, click shop, pilot shop. You'll see them in there. Brand new, again, not Under Armour, but still moisture wicking here. M0A.com, left center chest. On the back, the famous saying, a good pilot is always learning. Let's give away a good pilot is always learning shirt over to the magical Excel spreadsheet. Clicking random over here. This goes to email costadj20@gmail.com. My friend, thank you. You're looking great at the airport with a good pilot is always learning shirt. Sarah at m0a.com. Please email her your shipping and size info. My personal favorite, other than the Under Armour, I like the Under Armour a lot. My personal favorite, because I have a strong bias, our 2-3 Mike Zulu shirt here. Very, very cool. Again, this is by Tool Texas, the shirt pre-shrunk already, so when you're picking your sizes, note that moisture wicking, great, great quality shirt as well. Be impressed how soft they are. 2-3 Mike Zulus on the front of it. Who's our winner of the 2-3 Mike Zulu shirt? Over to the magical Excel spreadsheet, clicking the random to randomize the formula. Email is gavinvw at epsilonenglish.com. Congratulations, Gavin. Fantastic. Let's go ahead. Let's do, these are the older ones now. Still very cool. Classic M0A.com Pelican shirt. Going to, let's see, kriegdb@gmail.com is that email. Congratulations. Again, just doing emails to make it easy for everybody here. And of course, the classic M0A.com blue that you'll see most of our M0A Nation has already here. The classic blue over here. Let's give it away. Let's go to MRBENA Ashton @gmail.com. Ben Ashton, it looks like, gmail.com. Congratulations. Win yourself a classic blue M0A.com shirt. Let's give away a movie, then 3 months of ground school, then the Bose headset. Let you get back to enjoying your night. My rusty pilots out there, if you haven't seen Flying Again, Flying Again's a movie we made working with 8 rusty pilots on their journey back to proficiency, not just currency. Ariel Tweedos in there from Flying Wild, Alaska. Actually, after the show ended, she hadn't flown for 3 years. So very cool, partnered up with her. She was our 3-year rusty pilot. We had another rusty pilot who hadn't flown as long as 30 years. Pretty cool giveaway. I can do DVD or I can do Blu-ray. You pick. Let Sarah know and where to ship it. Here's my winner of our Flying Again DVD or Blu-ray. Let's see. It goes to lovetofly@msn.com. Good email address. That's going to a Flying Again DVD or Blu-ray. Let me know about that one. That's Fly, F-L-I, not F-L why. In case Sarah can't see that one when she's verifying that person. Let's do 3 months. 3 months inside the m0a.com online ground school. Again, our course is membership-based. One membership gets you access to all the courses. Private, instrument, commercial. Our FOI is in there. We are working on some amazing things right now. I'm this close to relaunching the private course. We have some great new learning management systems coming up. Just stay tuned through the coming months. There's going to be a lot of amazing changes that are going to continue to position m0a.com as the true market leader. 3 months of m0a.com online ground school. Let's go ahead and let's see who that goes to. That goes to Thomas Heater. 8251 at gmail.com. Congratulations, Thomas, and excited to have you all on board with that. We do webinars every Monday night, Thomas, so make sure you put it on your calendar, and some online ground school members on here. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely fantastic. Let's give away the Bose A20 headset. I encourage you afterwards. I'm going to stick around. I'll answer a few questions, and then I'll wrap it up. So be sure to congratulate our winner. Be sure to send in any questions. You may have to send it in once or twice because you see how fast the comments are moving. I may miss it. Let's give away the Bose A20 headset to one lucky member of the M0A Nation. Let's go ahead and do that now. Over to the magical Excel spreadsheet. Again, for those of you who know Excel, you know all I'm doing is pulling an email, tell them to pick a random cell number between this and this. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is randomized here. And our winner goes to Mitchell JT01 at bigpond.com. Mitchell, congratulations. You are the winner of our Bose A20 headset. Listen, if you didn't win this time, I'm giving away another one next month. We just can't stop giving stuff away. We have a weird philosophy in business. I believe what you want most, you have to give away to others. If we want success, we have to help others find success. So congratulations to Mitchell. Congratulations to all our great winners. I'm going to open it up now for questions. Any questions you all have, I'll take a few. Anything aviation related, I am honored and more than happy to chat about it with you. Remember aviationmastery.org to check it out and put those dates on your calendar and go ahead and get signed up for that. Congratulations to Mitchell. Let's look and let's go ahead and take some questions here. Thank you for all the nice presentations and everything else. I think you guys are fantastic and great too. Eli said, installing an IFD 550, first off, best decision you could make. We absolutely love ours in Mike Zulu. The best way to train, again, I don't get any money from this, but Gary will. Check out Gary's train. First off, Gary has online courses, or you can actually go to Gary. It's pilotsafety.org. Gary will also be at our seminar in Florida doing an Avidyne breakout session as well on the 550, so you might want to consider coming to that as well. It'll be fantastic for you, Eli. Liam said, what should I do other than your ground school to study for the written test, study for the knowledge test? Our course is going to be more than adequate for you, Liam, because I'm not teaching you to test. I'm teaching you to be a safe real-world pilot. I'm not here or in the business of teaching rote memorization. It's just, you have to be quizzed on a check ride. You have to be able to perform in the real world. I'm not here just to do rote memorization. I'm here to make you a safer, smarter pilot. Our course, you'll find, goes above and beyond the actual knowledge test. So think of that. Let's look at Facebook now for some questions. Gunter, no, sorry, I didn't do wings credit on this one. I should have. I will next time. There is wings credit for the Florida event in February, though, of course, a ton of wings credit for that. Nathaniel, thank you for it's a great philosophy and webinar. Awesome. Hey, Nick said, thanks for your great work in aviation. Just passed my instrument check ride and was asked about things I learned from your material. Thanks again. Well, thank you, Nick. I truly appreciate that. Robbie asked, what are your thoughts on vortex generators on aviation? Aircraft, 100%, my friend. The data is there. The science is there. They absolutely, truly work. You need to have them professionally installed. Most of them come with a very easy template. Make sure you keep the STC with you. I am a big fan of VGs if the situation should arise that you would need them operating out of that kind of strip. Matt, you see Bob Cam's comment on Facebook. How do you handle grumpy controllers on a cross country? I just asked for Aloha Bob. That's who I asked for. That's Bob, our local controller. When someone gets nasty with me, say, I know Bob. Okay, put Bob on. That's what I actually say with with that. Good to see you, Bob. I actually need to reach out to you. I want to start doing some videos together coming up. I have some on the calendar I scheduled you for, and you don't even know about it. So hopefully you're okay with that. All right. Is there a financial assistant for beginning students, says JJ on Facebook? Absolutely. Good friend Carl Valeri. Carl Valeri on Amazon. Look that up, or just type in Aviation Scholarships on Amazon. Carl produces every year a book of all the aviation scholarships that you could win, from the ones you never heard about to the big popular ones like AOPA does as well. So financial, assistance. How about some scholarships as well? All right, let's go ahead and look. And next time, I see a bunch of people commenting about Aloha Bob on YouTube. Next time, I'm telling you, when you're on Jack's Approach and you hear someone say Aloha, that's Aloha Bob. Just be sure to say hi to him. Give him a hard time. All right. Do I recommend student pilots using iPads? I recommend, this is my professional opinion, I like student pilots looking outside and learning to fly the airplane. I always say if I could have my way, my student would start in a Piper Cub with no electrical system and learn true stick and rudder skills. Then for instrument, we can upgrade to something sweet like Mike Zulu with all the glass panel, or something, a newer 172 with G1000, whatever it is. Start with the basics so you have a true skill set to fall back on with this. Corbin, thank you for that. Mike, I did get back on YouTube. I did get back to doing some podcasts recently as well here. Let me see. Username Firebird at the end. Asked about collaborating with other YouTubers in Orlando in February. Yes, I'm working on some of that as well. So I'll be focused on that as well. I'll be posting some more details about that. Brandon said, what's my position on performance spin recovery during your primary training? You know me, I'm a stick and rudder instructor at heart here. I think it's a shame that the only time we practice it is to get a spin endorsement for CFI. My private students do turning stalls, and if they're up to it, I will show them an actual spin so they know how to recover. Think about it. Think back to how nervous you were when you first thought about stalls. And how nervous are you 100 hours later, if that applies to you? Right? Stalls will become a non-event because you remember, we practice stalls to practice recoveries, not to practice how to get into a stall, right? So think about that. And back to stick and rudder flying, my video next, or this Tuesday now, is with Gary Reeves, and we're talking about glass versus steam in that video as well. So some cool stuff. Thank you for all the great thank yous and everything else. Fantastic to see you all here. Chris asked if I take on students locally anymore. I do not take on any local students. The only thing I do now is I fly for the videos that you all get to enjoy, and I fly with the team here now is the only instruct I'm actually doing. We had a waiting list previously that went on about 2 years, and it just wasn't fair to anybody. So we kind of discontinued taking students on, just flying with the M0A.com team members, and obviously keeping myself very, not just current, but proficient as well, and always learning to produce these great videos for you. We fly 3 or 4 times a week, just doing videos for the ground school, for YouTube, for Facebook, whatever that may be. So that is that. Thank you, Clay. Nice to see you as well. Thank you, Jerome, for sharing videos with your students. Would I recommend getting the CX3 flight computer for exams? Yes, but I'm also a big fan of the manual E6B as well. I got a giant one over here. You can't see it, it's off camera. I got a giant, we can see the giant E6B. This is my baby over here. This is the giant E6B. I'm gonna make a spoof video one day where I take this in the Cessna 150, I think. It's just a matter of how I'm gonna get it in there. That's the hardest part of making that video. All right, let's look at some more here. I don't know why you guys are laughing at me so much. Carrie asked about cost for private pilot. What is it? Let's take a poll here. Carrie said, what does it cost right now to get a private pilot certificate? I tell people to budget about 10 grand right now. Am I on base? Am I off base? I'm in, a rural town in Florida. It's going to be much different in LA or Miami. What everybody spend on their private pilot certificate and how many hours did it take? We can run a quick survey on Facebook and on YouTube. You can watch the comments back and forth, but 8 to 10 grand is reasonable. I believe that it can be certainly accomplished for that here. You can see a bunch of comments coming in there as well to help you out with that, Carrie. The power of the M0A Nation. We can get answers very, very quickly, can't we here? A lot depends on whether, what aircraft you fly. You're flying that Cessna 150 or you're flying that SR-20. Both beautiful aircraft, but both get you the same certificate at the end of the day. Single engine land. So just be mindful of that here. Let's see. All right. Someone's talking about, too, how hours are tough to measure because did it a busy Class C? You're right. You'd be flying a pilot-controlled airport, and you're never number 2 for takeoff. Flying a busy Class C, you'd be number 4 or 5 for departure sometimes, just adding up Hobbs time. So focus on that here. All right. Hunter's soloing tomorrow. Hunter, great to see you, my friend. Shoot me a message so I know. That is absolutely fantastic, my friend. Great. Let's see. Let's take one more question, and then we'll wrap this up and let you get back to enjoying your evening, because I got to get back to get some sleep as well, because we're coming back to film some more great videos for you all tomorrow as well. Let's see. Carson asked, can I do a video about prepping the flight into Oshkosh? Absolutely. We did a great flight there. We have a lot of long flights in our future, so we can certainly do that here. So, John asked Carl's last name, Carl Valeri. Don't ask me the spelling. V-A-L-E-R-I. Carl Valeri. He's a JetBlue pilot. Really, really nice guy. Roger asked, why is the drone missing a prop? It was pilot error. Is that an accurate statement? Pilot error. That was my fault. Brian said our VOR is going away. They're getting rid of like the terminal VORs and the low VORs. They'll never be able to get rid of all the high VORs. It's a backup to the GPS system here. Let's look over at Facebook. Clifford said, what's the hardest written test, hardest knowledge test? Commercials. They just progressively get harder. Commercials, more questions. Instruments, more difficult questions. It kind of continues with that. Jim Porterfield, I'm not going to read yours. Oh, some great comments. Fantastic here. Fantastic. Am I coming to Chicago? Apparently in January, I think I'm doing something. Great time to go to Chicago, I hear. January, they're doing something. The 99s are putting on some IFR event that I'm actually speaking at in January. I think it's on my calendar, like January 20th or so. Your local 99s chapters and the Pilots Association there is putting everything on. So focus on that. I'll be sending emails about that as well. But listen, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy Thursday night to find better ways or different ways to better yourself as a pilot. You're truly such a blessing to myself and this great team here at M0A.com. If there's anything at all we can do this week, this month, this year to help make you a safer, smarter pilot, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and most importantly, remember that a good pilot is always learning. Have a great night, guys. We'll see ya.